Welcome everyone to another episode of Shake Pods. Today we have with us Jason. Jason and we recently met at an event where Jason was a speaker and he was talking about very interesting things, and out of which one was his talk about how we can use AI to make content better, especially for LinkedIn, and how to go viral on LinkedIn using AI, evaluating with AI. And then we had a conversation about his company, which we'll let him talk about today. And before we exited the event, he mentioned something interesting about lottery tickets and how we can use AI to not predict the outcomes, but maximize the chances of getting your lottery picked. So it's breadth of conversation topics that we have talked, and I hope that our community learns something and our community will gain some value from Jason today. Welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much for having me, Sohail.
So you have had a very long, prestigious career. You have started your journey as a developer, Unix C developer, and then you have probably, I'm giving away the age, but I'm giving away the wisdom that you have. And you have held a lot of leadership positions across different departments in different companies, in marketing and sales and in security standpoint. And right now you're a co-founder of a security firm, AI governance security firm. How has the journey been? And what is one advice that you will give to someone who is early in their career right now?
Gosh, what a fantastic question. And what a great question to start this with. I don't think anybody can predict where their career is going to take them. The best advice I can give is just be open to opportunity, be as flexible and as agile as you can. Keep learning. Every day is a school day, as I often say, and just be receptive to the opportunities that come your way. My career has taken some rather interesting turns along the way. There has been a common theme throughout, though, and that's been innovation. I've always been attracted to the new shiny thing. I'm a little bit of a magpie in that way. And so I've been very fortunate to have been at the intersection of technology and innovation. And over my career, I've progressed from, as you quite rightly say, starting out as a Unix C developer into then becoming a pre-sales consultant for an internet company providing commercial internet connections in the mid-90s to the UK community, which was very, very exciting because that's just when the web browsers were starting to be launched and come out. And then through a succession of different interesting career turns, ended up being a security product manager. And from then, I've spent 30 plus years working in information security, cybersecurity, IT security, whatever you want to call those different domains. And now specifically focused on AI security.
Okay, cool. So out of all the roles that you have mentioned, which one did you enjoy the most? Is it the current one or?
Gosh, they've all been great fun, but for different reasons. I would say that the ones that have been most liberating and therefore enjoyable have been the ones where I've been a master of my own destiny. So 15 years ago, I set up my first business, which was Bridgeway Security Solutions. I ran that for 11 years. We were successful. We reached just under £4 million worth of revenue, 15 staff. And then we exited via a merger with an MSSP. Well, it was an MSP when I joined, and we brought it into becoming a hybrid MSSP. So introducing the security services alongside the normal traditional IT services. However, I think it's fair to say that innovation has always been in my blood, and I got the itch. And so I left that organization and a few months ago set up QL Security to focus on what I see as the next big innovation in this space, which is the securing of the AI systems.
Can we classify you as someone who adopts pretty quickly and early, even before the technology gets stable? Are you an early adopter?
Yes, I would say probably early adopter is the more correct phrase out of all of those. I was once told by a good friend of mine that you don't want to be a pioneer. because pioneers are the ones that you find dead by the side of the trail with the arrows sticking out their back. We don't want to be a pioneer. Let somebody else, burn their fingers and get hurt and damaged by trying the things out for the first time. But to be the second person or the third person on that trail, that's far more exciting. It's still new, it's still evolving, and there's still plenty of things to explore and learn in the process.
So, what are the transferable skills with each job field that you have taken in your career? You have worked with marketing teams, you have worked with you have started as a developer, now security, governance and AI. Has there been any transferable skills, hard skills or soft skills?
Yes, I would certainly say that there have been. In my particular career journey, the underlying technical skills that I learnt when first playing around with the ZX81 in my back bedroom at home evolved into a series of more detailed and structured modules at university. I studied computer science, and those networking basic fundamentals, for example, are just as relevant today as they were all the way back then. However, whilst we can talk about the technical details that persist till now and what is and isn't relevant on that front, I would actually say it's the soft skills that matter most. And there were two in particular that I would call out. The first is being able to translate deep technical into plain English.
Okay.
And I'm certain that this is transferable as a concept across many different disciplines. One of the biggest challenges I see for most, senior developers or senior engineers or senior physicists or whatever that discipline may be, when you become an expert in your field, one of the challenges is actually how to explain what you do, the challenges that you have, how you fix them, and so on, in terms that the layperson can understand. And that is important because if you're a developer, you can actually talk with the user and understand what they need to get from the software and give them the options and feed that back in. If you're in pre-sales, you can help guide a customer's journey through that sales process for a complicated piece of technology. And if you're in marketing, this is invaluable because this allows you to translate the technical or the deep domain expertise that is usually discussed into plain language that makes it not only accessible, but of interest to the person to buy. In sales, we have a saying, or we talk about the WIFM, what's in it for me? And if you can make these conversations outcome-based, rather than getting tied up with the technical bits and bytes, it becomes a lot more accessible, but also relevant to the senior executives within the organization. You have found a way to bridge the divide between those that do and those that are managing the company. And that translation or abstraction layer is often missing. So that, I would say, is one core soft skill to have.
For sure, I definitely echo with that because I myself am a machine learning engineer, and sometimes as engineers and technical people, we get hung up with all the technical details. And sometimes we want to show off to people saying that we know all these concepts and throw all these technical keywords to C-level executives and senior leadership, which they don't understand, one, and they don't need to because it's the engineer's job or the technical team's job to communicate the impact well via whatever the product that you are building. And if you cannot explain that in simple, plain terms, in terms of impact or revenue or how much time it saves, it's something that everyone should build, especially a person who is technical. So yeah, that's what
But this applies to anything that is ever being marketed or sold. It's been able to translate the features into the advantages and the benefits of, for instance, purchasing that service or product. Doesn't matter whether it's an ice cream or a potted plant or a really complicated piece of AI technology. You need to be able to translate it into what's in it for the person considering that purchase and why they would want to do it, and hopefully reach an emotional response that allows them to make that decision, not only in a fully informed way, but a way that actually meets the next level up, which reflects their personal buy-in to that decision. If you can achieve that, then you can unlock tremendous powers. And I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here, but
Sure.
technical engineers and similar hate me for saying this, but everybody, absolutely everyone within an organization is in sales and marketing. Somebody in the pub or where we're talking to the family at a family reunion or similar, and they ask, what do you do? Your ability to be able to explain not only your role, but also what the organization does is sales and marketing. And you never know when opportunities will, I guess, present themselves for business opportunities, I mean, in those contexts. So whilst it's easy to bash sales and marketing, and there's always that sort of fight between those two different camps, the reality is that everyone is involved in that.
Yes. No, I mean, I definitely agree. More so right now in 2026, because with AI, I think spinning up and developing an application has never been easier. You can develop from idea to prototyping to production, maybe in days even. That's how easy the development has gotten, and people have been developing products left and right like crazy on a daily basis. And I think the differentiator between a failed AI startup and a successful one is definitely, I definitely right now I think is ability to sell well, and a person or a company who can convince or market their product, make them pay for the product, if someone is gonna win. And I think those skills, ability to sell softwares, having that soft skills of communicating well in plain English and marketing well, especially in this day and age, is very important. That's what I think. And every technical and a person who develops something should learn these kind of soft skills.
You're quite right. And I think it's also interesting to point out that these are skills that can be learned at any stage in life. There's no, I guess, major issue in addressing your fears, if you have them, about public presenting, about selling, about marketing, about doing anything that perhaps feels outside of your comfort zone. There are many ways in which you can prepare for that and test it out in smaller increments, shall we say, to begin with, until you become more comfortable and confident and can then address the other larger stages in life. But being able to do so is tremendously liberating, and it unlocks career progression faster than anything else, I would argue.
Sure. I think, putting in more reps towards anything will definitely help. That's something that anyone can start with. If you have a fear of public speaking, then put yourself there out more, and that's how you get better.
Yes.
Right. In your LinkedIn, you have mentioned something about how the AI adoption has outpaced AI governance. What does that mean? And why is it important?
Gosh, that was one of the reasons why I founded QL Security with my colleague, John Airy. The question now in the marketplace is different to that we had last year or even the year before. People would be asking in previous years, hey, are you guys using AI? Or how are you using AI? But I reckon the question now is very different. The question now assumes that you are using AI. And what they want to know is, when I give you my data and you put my data into your AI systems, how do I know that my data is going to be safe and secure? And more to the point, can you prove it? And those two questions are really at the very heart of what we try to help organizations think about and deliver against. So number one, securing the AI systems is often overlooked when you're working at AI velocity. You're trying to implement AI systems as quickly as possible. You're exchanging models as they come out, almost on a weekly basis. And the project meanders as you try to find the right path to navigate to deliver the results that the company needs and is screaming out for. The problem is, at no point has actually anyone thought about the risks that are being introduced.
Okay.
And so these are a number of different risks. Some of them around where you're storing the data, is it encrypted, all the traditional cybersecurity concerns. But actually, the risks I'm talking about cover those, but are also more fundamental. It's, well, who owns the risk? When it goes wrong, who's to blame? If you've rolled out AI and you've got a big AI project and then suddenly it goes wrong and you want to fix it, well, who's responsible for fixing that? Who's accountable for it when it goes wrong? And these questions are needed in terms of they need to be asked in order to find, I guess, the corporate matrix, the RACI model matrix of accountability, responsibility, who's going to be consulted, who's going to be informed, so that there's a clear pathway as to who does which role within that part. What we've seen is that organizations are now being asked how the customer data is being handled, how's it being secured, especially around AI, and more importantly, can they demonstrate that security? Organizations are challenged by this, not because the systems are necessarily not secure, sometimes they are, though often that is also an issue, but more that they haven't got the governance in place. They're working so quickly, they're swapping models in and out each week as new ones become available. And of course, the project is meandering around as the goalposts keep moving and new features are being added in. But the governance layer over the top of it, which covers, well, who owns the risk? What is and isn't allowed to be done with AI and the data that goes into AI? How that is going to be measured from a security point of view, what security tooling perhaps is required? And most importantly of all, what documentation trail will there be to evidence all of those decisions that are being made, sometimes on a day-to-day basis? Governance teams. So this is what often within a larger organization would be referred to as the GRC team, which have internal auditors and governance leads and so forth. Typically are very methodical and go through a lot of information. They create the policies to make sure that the processes and procedures are being followed, and they collect evidence of these decisions and that these controls are generating the right kind of output. However, they're not known to be the fastest because they're doing so much. The rate of evidence collection, of documentation and so forth means that it usually takes them a year or two to actually do a proper in-depth GRC modeling of the risk. But the problem is, if your model is being swapped out every other week, how does governance keep up with that? By the time they write it all up, you'll have gone through 6, 7, 8, perhaps dozens of different models. And with each one, the risk is slightly different and needs to be tested. So this is what I mean by governance struggling to keep up with AI velocity. The development pace is astonishing. As you quite rightly say, we can develop applications within days now, whereas previously it would take us months or even years. And so the traditional approach is no longer fit for purpose. And going back to why we set up QL Security, my co-founder and I, John, we recognize that organizations would be struggling with this, mainly because the traditional information security lens, which is the governance, risk and compliance aspects, don't fully cover all of the AI risks. And the cybersecurity background that we both have also don't cover all of the AI risks. And certainly the two together, working in just purely looking at AI security, are struggling. One can't keep up, and the other one isn't fully covering all of the risks. And so that's what, I guess, brought us together and made us think about how we could do it differently, providing a specialist partner that focused just on AI security and covering governance through to technical implementation of the controls and back again so that we can evidence the results. And that's what we are creating. We believe we're unique in the UK. There's certainly people who do AI governance and people who do AI security controls, but we haven't come across anyone who's doing it end to end in the way that I've just explained, which is fun and exciting.
Yeah.
And it keeps us out of trouble.
Yeah. So I do have a couple of follow-ups, right? So one is, how different is securing a non-AI application versus securing an AI application?
I've been working in this industry, security and cybersecurity, specifically, for 32 years now. And if you give me a traditional deterministic application, there's reams and reams of different applications, processes, frameworks, standards. That's the great thing about standards. There's so many to choose from. Regulatory and legislative controls about how these applications ought to behave, and the securing of them and the data within is a reasonably well known and well treated marketplace and industry. But the real challenge is when it comes to AI, that maturity isn't there, and the risks are different. At the very heart of an AI model, we have a black box. We don't know exactly how that works as a non-developer, and certainly not from the manufacturer. We just know that sometimes it gives us useful information, but we're not terribly sure how it got to that useful information. And as we see with LLMs, so the large language models that everybody is now reasonably familiar with, sometimes they hallucinate. Or at least that's the perception. The reality is that they're always hallucinating. It's just that often these hallucinations are useful to us because they reflect the truth. But if we think of it in that way, then we can accept that from time to time, a hallucination will come out of it that isn't modeled on the truth. Ultimately, it's just trying to make us happy. When we ask the same model, the same question, and we get different answers, we have a real challenge to prove that that model is working as we expect it to. We cannot be certain that every time we're going to get the right answer. And so at the very heart of this AI process or system or software or application that we're developing, we have something that we're not sure if it's always going to behave appropriately. And that makes securing systems built upon that really, really difficult. We have some additional considerations as well when it comes to LLMs, where we have attacks such as prompt injection attacks, model drift, and similar, that makes it very hard for us to be able to be absolutely certain. In fact, we cannot be absolutely certain that there aren't attacks that can cause it to move outside of the guardrails that we try to put around it. And from a security point of view, that's not a good place to be. In traditional security, we say there's no such thing as 100% security. In AI terms, it's even lower.
Yeah. So at what point?
So on that one, if I may, I just would like to expand.
Yeah,
That's not to say that it can't be made more secure than what it is out of the box. Of course it can. And the most important thing for customers to appreciate, or organizations across the world to appreciate, is that nobody's asking you to make it 100% secure. There is no such thing as 100% security anyway. But if you can show that you're taking it seriously, that you're identifying the risks, and that you're doing something about managing those risks, then you're already way ahead of your competitors. And if on top of that, you can now demonstrate through the collected evidence that you're taking that seriously and have been for a while, you are absolutely going to be able to differentiate yourself strongly from all of your competitors in the different tenders and supplier questionnaires. And you can use AI security as a way of winning business.
Okay. So one is about AI governance. AI security and AI governance are a bit different, though they might work hand in hand, but they are different, right? So at what point of building an AI application or a product, at what stage of the product should AI governance come in? Is it early stage, later stage, or if something bad happens, that's when you should start thinking about AI governance? When is it?
Yes, I would recommend you don't do the latter. AI governance, ideally, should be done before you even start selecting models or writing your first prompt. It has to be at the very start of the AI project for it to deliver its maximum value. The reality is that many AI projects have begun without that governance in place. So you can backfill it, but it's even more of a catch-up job because of that AI velocity that I mentioned earlier, than it would be otherwise. But AI governance takes many forms. It can be as simple as having an acceptable use policy across the organization as to which AI systems are authorized and approved for use within the organization, what is and is not, I guess, approved for doing with the AI. So certain types of data, for example, may not be suitable for inputting into the AI systems. These will vary from organization to organization, but these are the decisions that need to be taken very early on in the AI project. Trying to make these decisions after you've shipped the AI or after everyone's installed Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT on their desktops and they're uploading customer sensitive information into them without any controls, that's when it's a little bit too late.
At work, I have been building a lot of agentic AI workflows for my organization. And there are two problems that we are facing. One is around the accuracies, because I'm building web agents which kind of works end to end, extracts, scrapes relevant data that is needed for organization and stores it in. And so hallucination is not a very huge problem for me. The problem for me is one, accuracy. But then before that, I think one other problem is the ballooning up of the LLM API budget. Token costs and the budget is increasing quite a lot. And also you talked about switching models, right? With AI applications, I think everyone are figuring out, and there is no set plan that, let's say, if you have set it out in start, then there is a very least probable chance that the plan that you set out in the beginning is followed throughout. There will be a lot of changes in terms of models and functionalities, etc. Right now, I'm thinking of switching models and see the performance and to cut down the cost. As you said, we are switching the models. I myself in the organization, we are thinking of switching models to much more open source models and so on and so forth. So how do you govern all this? Who do you hold accountable?
With great difficulty is the short answer. But again, it boils down to who owns AI risk within the organization. Has that been defined yet? Once that person's been identified, of course, you need to empower them. And that could be by providing them with a budget or resources of other types in order to have the authority to make the changes required to ensure that the AI project is kept safe and secure. Talking about the different points that you mentioned there, though, AI token bill shock, if you like, is a thing now. And there have been a few organizations who have visibly flinched at the rising costs of AI. And rightly so, it isn't cheap. So there are ways, of course, minimizing that, which are now rapidly gaining traction. One of the most amusing ones, I think, is the caveman skill, which I do recommend people have a play with, if not aware of it. So something I do recommend that people have a look at if they haven't already, because what it does, it summarizes very tersely. It sounds like a caveman, which is why it's called that. But when you consider that the output and input to every LLM chat is always appended to the conversation, and it grows and it grows and it grows, you recognize why being a little bit terser with the language consumes fewer tokens and therefore can be, from a user's point of view, a great way forwards. Now, when it comes to API calls and fully automated elements, then that doesn't have as much value. But there are other techniques to try to reduce the token usage. One of those that we're seeing being implemented at this moment in time is, as you were describing there, which is to go to a local model as a key part of that delivery. And that makes perfect sense. Many of these are more than capable now of summarizing data and presenting it in a fashion that is perfectly workable by another LLM or another part of the process later on. And to your governance question, how does that actually work? Governance is just part of that conversation. You're making these decisions either in meetings or Teams chats or similar. That's already happening. The only thing that might not be happening is the documentation of the results of these meetings. If you can start recording that whether that's through a transcription or through a video recording or somebody taking notes in the meeting, and you have a structured way of keeping these notes, then you're starting to build up a history of evidence that shows how your decision-making processes evolved over time and how you ended up with this model, not that one, the risks that were identified, the reasons why you chose that one. That's all that you need to do in order to be able to show proper governance. Most organizations are doing it, and it's all up here. Whereas the first thing that the auditor is going to say when they come round is, show me.
Show me.
If it isn't written down, it doesn't exist from their point of view.
Right. Makes sense. So during our conversation, now you have mentioned about QL security. Let's formally talk about QL security now. So what is QL security? What is the idea behind it? What's one problem that you're solving right now? And why do you think it's the right moment now to start a company in the space of security and governance?
So QL Security is an award-winning AI security specialist partner that provides an integrated end-to-end, so governance all the way down to technical controls and back again, approach to AI risk. We work with typically mid-size and large organizations across the UK, often in regulated industries, but not just. And we help find ways of not only securing their AI systems, but also helping them to demonstrate the security of those. We typically find that our customers are facing one of three different challenges. The first is they want to do AI. There's a mandate from the board. The CEO has read an article somewhere, perhaps, that says AI is good, you need to do it, and is now saying that to the organization. But the problem is the organization as a whole is uncertain as to where to go next. They don't fully understand the risks of that, both in terms of the AI risks and the broader risks, and they need some guidance for that. The second type of organization or a challenge that we help with is where somebody has deployed AI and they've done a pilot, perhaps a big pilot. They've deployed it, they've spent loads of money usually on this, and it didn't work. It crashed and burned. And we're involved in coming in and examining the ashes and trying to work out why. And the majority of the time, I don't think it will come as a major surprise. It's not a technical challenge. It usually is a people challenge. There needs to be a cultural transformation that takes place alongside an AI project, and it's been overlooked. And by that, I mean education, training, yes, but it's also making sure that the executive team are aware of their AI challenges and capabilities so that they can strategize AI at the top level. Without that vision, it's really, really hard to implement an AI strategy across the organization. The other part that is often missing is that when it is deployed, it's poorly supported within the different departments and teams. So we work with them to set up what we call digital eagles, but these are cultural transformation teams that work alongside us and actually help us when we run into a problem with AI.
Right.
This is similar to what Barclays Bank did with their mobile project the second time round. The first one was a tremendous disaster. Second time round it worked, and it was primarily because of the work that they put into the Digital Eagles program. So we do something similar to support that. And then, of course, the end users themselves. And the third type of challenge that we get involved with, our bread and butter, if you like, is where they've deployed AI, it's in production, everything's been going swimmingly, but then something happened. Either they had a close call, a near miss, if you like, and they went, ooh, not happy about the security after all, or they've received a tender questionnaire that's asking awkward questions around the AI security, and can they demonstrate it? And that's when they realize that, yes, they need some help and assistance in securing it and being able to demonstrate it.
Right. So if someone wants to learn about AI security or AI governance, do you believe in formal education of getting certifications, or someone has to do it to understand it? Do you suggest any kind of certifications in this space?
Yes, interesting. The two answers to that. The actual technical security controls and similar, I would suggest certifications would not be helpful there. And the main reason for that is because it's moving and evolving at such a rate that whatever you learn today won't necessarily be relevant in a few weeks, months, suddenly years' time. So more of the hands-on practical skills are helpful, indeed necessary to make the most of that. There is a question mark around the governance there. If you look at the governance frameworks around AI in particular, whether that's the NIST, AI CSF, or the ISO 42001, can go to different training boutiques and ask for certification in that. For example, you can go to the British Standards Institute, the BSI, and become a lead auditor in ISO 42001, the AI management standard, which is great. You'll get a nice little certificate, especially if you pass the exam at the end, which is quite something. But it will allow you to go out there and offer yourself as an auditor for checking AI systems across the globe. And what's interesting, though, is that that doesn't have any practical AI knowledge, expertise, experience requirements whatsoever. What you're doing is you're auditing a management system. You're asking questions around how are you managing your AI? Where's your risk register? What happens when you identify a risk? How are you implementing a control? Where is the evidence that you've implemented that control? And those questions are useful to know how to ask and indeed how to answer. But there's an abstraction at the moment between the auditors and the actual hands-on knowledge. In some areas, whether that's a quality management system, environmental and sustainability management system, and so on, that perhaps isn't that important because they're quite mature industries and, I guess, frameworks and models. When it comes to AI, though, I would argue that if you've got an auditor that doesn't know how to do the hands-on in AI, you're not getting your value's worth.
Uh-huh.
And that's why we think that the governance and the technical controls need to go hand in hand when it's innovating at this rate.
Right.
And so, we have auditors on our team that have been trained on this, but they've also got a lot of hands-on experience. And so they can see both sides of that same coin and are able to advise people on how to pragmatically, quickly, and efficiently implement all these different governance and security controls.
Good. Makes sense. In the event that we met, you talked about content on LinkedIn and how AI can help making content go viral, how you can check that with AI and correct so that it can perform well on LinkedIn. So tell me what works on LinkedIn, what are your learnings, and how can someone use AI to maybe automate their content on LinkedIn or optimize, etc.
Interesting. I started with that small project a few months ago, towards the tail end of last year, actually, because I was curious as to why sometimes you can post something on LinkedIn and it gets tens of thousands of impressions, and you can post something that you feel is very similar a day later and it perhaps gets 10 impressions and that's it. Crickets. Yeah, you actually see almost...
The crickets happen to me always, all the time.
It's not just me.
Whenever I post.
So sometimes you can post and get, tens of thousands of views and likes and similar, and you think, wow, that's really good. And the next day you can post what you think is similar content, but you only get crickets, maybe 10 views, and that's it. And I was curious as to why. So rather than using AI to write the content, I used AI to research this. And from that, I found out that the LinkedIn algorithms, which are not that well publicized, I should say, still fundamentally a proprietary secret of LinkedIn. However, some teasing of the decision-making has come out in various articles and research papers. And I used AI to link all of that together and to summarize it back to me. And the findings were rather interesting. And so from that, I built a system to score across the different identified categories. There were 8 categories to begin with. That's now grown to 9. And yes, it was reasonably useful and interesting. And of course, just at that moment in time was when LinkedIn changed the algorithm. So all of the work I'd done up to that point, I had to throw away and almost start again. The aspects that surprised me, though, was that with a new algorithm, 360 Brew, as it's called, that AI-generated content is suppressed.
Okay.
So if you're using AI to write your posts, chances are it won't get the reach that it would have if you had done that in your own voice. and your own words. So my recommendation to marketeers out there who are trying to improve their reach is don't use AI for writing it. Use AI for scoring it, which is pretty much the basis of my talk. The interesting elements about how it worked as well was about some of the interesting findings from the research was that it wasn't always just about the content. It was also down to the time of day that it was posted and the relevance to you as an individual. So, for example, if I'm talking about AI security and then suddenly I start talking about, I know, car mechanical problems with no relevance to AI or security, it will get very confused as to who I am and what I'm trying to do. And slowly but surely, all of my posts will be suppressed and the reach will be reduced because it thinks I'm a journalist. The more specific you can be and the more aligned it is with your profile, the wider the reach slowly over time becomes. So try to stay on message was one of the learning points. The other one is consider also the time that you post it and the day that you post it. You want to maximize the reach? Yes. But the reach is actually determined by how many people respond and look at and stay looking at your post when it goes out live. So if you post it at a time where people are heads down working or at the weekend when they're doing other things, it's not going to have the same impact as if you post it at, say, 8:30 in the morning on a Tuesday or a Thursday, where more people will be looking at LinkedIn. And that maximizes the chances of people spending a little bit longer reading your post and then it going viral in that way. That's all. And the other one that surprised me is don't include links within the copy. Those tend to get suppressed as well.
So the external links,
Yes,
any kind
correct.
of external links on the post will get
Include it
suppressed.
as your first comment by all means, but not in the body of the post. Anyway, it's a fun little project and
Is it public? Can we get the link for that? I'll share it in the description of the video.
of
so that
course,
people
it's
can.
very straightforward. You can download it and install it on any AI agent. It's a
Okay.
set of instructions, a skill if
Okay.
you're in
It's
Claude,
a skill.
but you can convert it into a GPT or just use it as a one-off.
Got it. Makes sense. So I think you also mentioned about how we can use AI to improve chances of lottery tickets. I know we are running short of time. Do you think we can quickly
Yeah, of course.
touch upon on that?
Yes. So I haven't given this talk yet, but I hope to present this soon. The premise is that we can use AI to improve the chances of winning bigger at lottery. So I'm using that word very carefully. It's bigger. The chances of you winning with a lottery ticket in the UK is still 1 in 45 and something million. So we're not going to be rich overnight by using AI to help pick our numbers. But depending on which numbers we pick, chances of us having to split those winnings with one or more other people is significant. If, for example, you go for low numbers, which are typically months of the year, or below 30, or 31 for days of the month, and similar, these are quite commonly chosen numbers. And in fact, there are 10,000 plus players that every week pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's got exactly the same chance of winning as a number goes, or a selection of numbers, as any other random permutation, 1 in 45 million. But if you happen to choose that one and you get a ticket for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it comes up, you're now sharing the winnings with 10,000 other people. So I flipped the problem on its head and I used AI to research all of the different permutations that were likely to be used by people playing the lottery and find the ones that are less likely to be used, where there be fewer collisions in the case of a winning. And therefore, the chances of winning are the same, but the chances of you winning a bigger prize are therefore increased.
Right. So what's the next thing that you're working in QL?
Well, we're working with a number of different organizations in helping them improve their security. We're always on the lookout for partners. And in short, what we're trying to deliver is a whole product solution approach to the marketplace where currently none of the vendors are supplying it, they're just supplying the different components. So by linking these together, we're able to provide something that allows early adopters to implement AI faster and more safely than would otherwise be the case. And I think that's going to keep us busy for a long while yet.
Right. Okay. It sounds cool. So before we wrap this up, I just have a very fun rapid fire round.
Try.
Okay. What's the best advice for someone starting in AI security right now in one line?
Play.
Biggest AI security threat right now?
There's so many. I would suggest that understanding AI risks in their totality is the starting point on that one.
Okay. ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, your favorite?
Claude.
Okay. Will AI replace security analysts? Yes or no?
No, no way.
Best business book every founder should read?
Gosh, there's so many. My personal favorite is Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm.
Best advice you want to give to someone who is starting their careers?
Find something you enjoy doing and do it well.
Okay. What would you be doing if not AI security and AI governance?
Well, in my spare time, I'm a glider pilot. So I'd like to say gliding, but I'm sure I'd find something else to keep me busy as well.
One thing you tell your 22-year-old self.
Buy Bitcoin.
Right. QL security in 3 words.
AI security specialist.
And lastly, finish this sentence. In 2026, the companies that survive the AI era will...
I would say that the companies that survive the AI era are those that embrace it, but understand both its power and its weakness and adapt to the new world and the new dynamics. It's not going to necessarily kill industries, but it will reshape them in ways that we, I think, are still working out.
All right, that's it for today. We'll wrap this up. Thank you so much, Jason, for joining us. It was great pleasure meeting you, talking with you, and I'm pretty sure our community will learn a lot from this. Send me the link of the next talk that you're delivering on any topic. I'd be happy to attend.
Thank you very much. It's been great fun. Really appreciate it.